Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this morning as we continue the conversations, getting into our last. When you speak about Trinidad and Tobago, many people might feel rather frustrated. Now, we have a lot of positives, there's a lot of beauty. There is no doubt about that. But how do we preserve this beauty or even extend this beauty for years and years to come? And you might wonder, hold on, politics is not everything, but politics has a major role to play in it. And it's not just a matter of politics. Put politics aside for a moment. Simple, basic little things like building society or community development stems from who exists where. That's all part of it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't run from that. You can't deny it. You can't doubt it. But sometimes we all need a portal to put forward our thoughts and ideas. We need a portal where we can speak our minds openly, where we can express our frustrations. But we need a portal for action. We need a portal that aims to actually get that work done, that aims to advocate on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, a portal that is for nation builders by nation builders. And that's exactly what our part TT intends to do. Our party T actually stands for Our Portal for Accountability and Representation for TNT. Sounds new to you? Well, it's new to me as well. So let's get a bit more information as I welcome the Chief Executive Officer of our party, Mr. Rudolph Hanamji. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Keaton, and same to all of our fellow citizens. I'm so happy to be here.
Indeed. Well, Mr. Namji, please tell me more about our party. How was this idea born and the background, the origins, and the intentions or the missions of the organization?
Keaton, if I'm quite straightforward, it's one of those things that where the universe has aligned. I don't believe in coincidences, and I think each of us, when we look back on our journey to our present, you will see how many dots have actually connected across your life. And if you live a life where you are present in the moment and you acknowledge all of the privileges and the blessings that you do have in our great nation, you can identify your own path as to where you can leverage those privileges and experiences to make a better Trinidad and Tobago in your own way. And I have been involved in human rights activity since I was 15 years old at Queen's Royal College. That's 25 years ago. I have been an executive member of a political party. I have been involved in community advocacy and a number of national development initiatives. And where I sit, Keaton, now, and I look at my country, we have so many wonderful potential benefits that we can reap. However, we are mired in some very critical challenges that we must overcome. So, in talking with several groups, individuals, and looking back at some of my experiences, I thought it was time for us as a group of citizens, as nation builders, to really get together, leverage technology, and also best practices in sustainable community development and public innovation, and create this movement where we can bring different minds together and start that conversion process where we begin to fulfill our potential. So it's really something born out of a personal passion where you have to be very clear about your purpose. It's about building the Trinidad and Tobago that we would all like to see if we could close our eyes and imagine it. It's about using that purpose to connect with people because people are at the core what we are doing all of this work for. And together with those people, we can actually identify the right policies and get them implemented in short order.
You spoke about realizing and achieving our full potential. You also described some of the ideals or some of the things that is hoped to be achieved. So that speaks to objectives. But when you speak about true potential, what do you think is the true potential of TNT?
Interestingly, you should ask that question because that is the aim of the first project under the Our Part umbrella, which is entitled TT100. And I often say to people when I have these meetings with them or workshops. I say, if you could close your eyes, Keaton, and imagine Trinidad and Tobago when we celebrate that 100th year of independence or Republican status, what would you see in front of you? And I, as a member of the millennial generation, believe that I can see a country that is clean, where people are smiling and fulfilling their personal potential, where everything works, where we have reduced childhood poverty and all kinds of vulnerabilities and at-risk communities to near zero, where there really is water for all. We've diversified our economy while we do still have oil and gas initiatives. We've been able to develop our creative sector, sporting, ICT areas, and all of these plans that Keaton, as I said, I've been a part of developing national plans in the tourism sector, fintech, in manufacturing. These plans we have invested in as citizens through taxpayers' dollars, and they sit there in ministries. And the average citizen, of course, would not have access to these or have the time to read them. But some of us do. And if are able to implement those policies, Keaton, we can make a difference and we can actually have a country where our quality of life indicators are in the top percentile of the entire world. I really believe that. And that's why we're meeting with people to get a concerted view, a coalescing of thought around some of the key pillars that would really make Trinidad and Tobago the best that it can be.
You also speak about nation builders. I mean, the poster that I saw, the first thing is nation builders needed. And throughout the course of the program and reading a bit more actually about our party T, the word patriots is used quite a number of times. So, what our party T from their perspective, what would you define a patriot as?
A patriot is very simply someone who is quite capable of accepting that the country must be put ahead of any other considerations. And I know it sounds a bit idealistic, but when you look at our forefathers and what our ancestors went through to get us to where we are today, in many ways, many forms, they have put the country, not all of them, but I would like to say the majority of them did put Trinidad and Tobago ahead of some of their own personal goals. Because think about it, when you invest into your children and the future generations, when Keaton, you sacrifice your personal interests for that generation, what are you really doing? You are saying that there is something greater than myself, that I am willing to go without so that my children can have opportunities that I didn't have. And long after I am no longer on this planet, those generations will benefit. So patriotism to me is within all of us, and many of us do it each day in our own way. Those of us that follow the regulations, when you're in traffic you don't drive down the shoulder. Those of us that speak of our country in glowing terms despite all the challenges that we have, and those of us who in each of our professions, like yourself in the media, ensure that we have constructive conversations and we use critical thinking to look for solutions to our challenges rather than down crying the nation. So patriotism can take many forms and it's not one size fits all. But I do think from the youngest to the oldest amongst us, there are patriots in all Trinidad and Tobago citizens.
With respect to the projects and our party T and call for nation builders, I know that there are six key projects.
Yeah.
Could you please speak to me a bit more about these six key projects now?
Certainly. And these projects are not necessarily new under the sun. But what we've done, and my part of my background is in innovation and public policy development, is we've taken concepts like consultation and and actual national development best practices. And we've created a system. So the innovation really is in the integration amongst the six projects and the way that we're going to approach those projects. So I mentioned the first one, which is really underscoring a consensus position amongst a broad coalition of interests, such as farmers, teachers, single mothers, etc., as to what are the common pillars that we want to try and aspire to, as our motto says, and eventually achieve. So that's creating that vision for Trinidad and Tobago. And once we have that vision, Keaton, we then need to align the how do we achieve that with the 17 sustainable development goals that the United Nations has created for the entire world. And that's where the second project, entitled Inspire 360, comes in. So we're looking for younger and older people in those 17 areas who will come together and create objective assessments and roadmaps for each of those 17 areas. They will then form part of the first ever national think tank entitled SPREE. It's named after one of the fathers of the steel pan, because I think that that is the greatest symbol of innovation in the entire world. You see something rusty and rotting in the mud, and you're able to reimagine that into the most beautiful instrument, to my mind, in the world. And so they're going to create a think tank with other persons working outside of the Inspire 360 project. And take, for example, you have a challenge like traffic. You put that on the table for the think tank, and they are able to develop creative and innovative solutions using some of the already existing ideas. When you have those ideas, you have those solutions, you need to mobilize the community. So that is where project number 4, Pansu Collective, comes in. The Pansu Collective quickly takes the best of the Panchayat and the Susu models, which helped our ancestors to develop empowerment and economic feasibility and independence. And it is going to create a center of excellence for NGOs and CBOs across Trinidad and Tobago. So those same people from the think tank and Inspire 360, they will work alongside NGOs and CBOs to provide technical assistance, financial opportunities, and support systems that ensure that our civil society is more effective. And the vision there is that if you actually solve some of these national problems, you won't need as many NGOs and CBOs, and that money and expertise can be used into other activities. And the fifth project is entitled Just TT. It's a leadership academy. So people who want, young, especially younger people who want to learn about justice, ethics, diversity, inclusion, we're going to partner with existing programs and create some of our own so that we can start shaping the leaders of tomorrow. Because you do have to have a political arm of this at some point, but you need to have the right people to fill those positions and take up spaces so that when they represent persons, they do it from a place of ethics and national pride. And the last project is an overarching campaign called the Land of And. It's a play on, of course, the ampersand within our name. And what it's really saying, Keaton, is that in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have to have an either or position. We can walk and chew gum and laugh and develop at the same time. So we can have tourism and oil and gas. We can have young and old building together. So that is the whole campaign that will really reinstill a sense of pride, and it will push back against a lot of the negatives that people unfortunately buy into, because that's just how negativity in marketing, we know, spreads faster than positivity. So it's those 6 integrated projects, and of course I try to rush through them, but people can visit ourpart.org to learn more about the projects.
Negativity spreads more than positivity. Isn't that true?
It does.
What's interesting to Mr. Namji is that you explain it brilliantly. That it tells me that these 6 key projects that are being focused on in our part TT are actually all linked. So there's some sort of linkage between project 1, project 2, etc. I'm curious to know, though, are there any ongoing projects or activities on the part of the organization?
So, as you would have intimated at the beginning, this process didn't begin yesterday. And what has been happening in the interregnum period is that we have developed a series of working groups for each of the projects. And those working groups have been already meeting with NGOs and CBOs. We have onboarded 5 young persons already out of the 17 that we have targeted. We have started compiling a series of national reports. We've launched our own podcast entitled Unboxing T&T, where we look at national issues layer by layer. And we have onboarded over 5 NGOs already to the Pansu Collective. One of them, as a matter of fact, is a farmers collective that hopes to represent the 56,000 farmers across Trinidad and Tobago. And we are working with them to develop a national strategic plan for farmers mobilization. So there is a series of developmental work for the organization. As we're saying, if we wish the country to run and walk at the same time, then we have to be able to do that. So and that's why we're so happy to be here to chat with you, because we think we're at a position now where we can take the work to a more public level. We have some of the structures in place. We have a code of conduct that persons have to sign on to. And we have a series of workshops also planned over the next few weeks into the new year. So a lot of moving parts, but it's a fantastic team. The COO, Anarian Mason, has been working alongside myself, and a shout out to that team that has been doing a lot of background work selflessly over the last year.
I'm curious to know, Mr. Hanamji, is this the genesis of a new political organization or institution, or is this non-political at all?
Our part will always remain non-political in terms of it is going to objectively, as the name suggests, hold all national leaders, whether they're politicians or public servants, to account, and it will demand representation from those who are paid to represent us. But to be very transparent, the reason that we have a leadership academy and the reason that we want to develop a vision and policies that align with that vision for the country is that we do hope to inform the politics, Keaton. So we would love to see graduates of our programs, persons who buy into this concept of nation building and patriotism. We would like to see those type of individuals eventually vie for political office. And if they uphold the value system and they can truly demonstrate the new politics that we have always talked about since the 80s, but we really can't seem to have achieved it yet, then I would say that they would have their own gold standard marks coming out of the assessments that our part will be engaging in. If they don't follow those systems, then they're not going to be happy with the marks that they get. So their policy, Keaton, at the end of the day, the word policy and politics they both sound familiar because they are connected. Without the right policies and the effective implementation of those policies, we will not have the changes that we need. So, fortunately, unfortunately, you have to get the politics involved, but you have to get the right politics. And I will always remember in my business ethics course at UE, in the last class, Dr. Arjun had us host a debate, and I was on the negative for the statement politics has a morality of its own, which was famously coined, of course, by Mr. Pandey. And my closing sentiment in my debate was it is not politics, Keaton, that has a morality of its own, it's politicians. And if through initiatives like Our Part, citizens can truly and effectively mobilize and unite around what are the values we want in our politics, I think we can positively influence those politicians who wish to represent us, and we can get the best of us in office. So that's why initiatives like these are important, because we need to get the politics right as well. So there is a connection, but the Our Part organization itself will not become a political party. And even if people who graduate from our programs breach ethical standards, they will also be held accountable.
That is most interesting. If people wanted to find out a bit more, because I know that there is a call to action now on the part of the organization. If people wanted to find out more, because they're in a position to decide whether or not I want to be a part of Our Part, TT. How do they do that? Where can they go to?
We have made it as easy as we can. So our part with two T's, of course, as you said, .org, or you can search for us on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Just search for our part. And you can always simply reach out to myself or Naren Mason, Rudolph Hanamji. I'm on all social media platforms. The idea here, Peter, at the end of the day, is that if I do my part, you do your part, then together we do our part to bring the kind of accountability and representation to Trinidad and Tobago. So go to our part, OURPARTT.org, and all of our contact information is there, and you can get involved today and make a difference.
Mr. Hanamji, your closing statements to the viewers this morning.
Put TNT first, even ahead of some of your own interests. And you have to understand that each of us has our part. And yes, we keep making the pun. You have your part to play in all of this, but you can't do it alone. So we need to act together, define what kind of country we want to have it for the future, for our generations and those afterwards. And let us get involved and build TNT. So as I said before, I'll do my part, you do your part, and we'll do our part together.
Mr. Hanamji, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning, and thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much for your time.
Thank you.
For being with us. Of course, you can reach out. I'll just reiterate once more. You can visit the website at www.ourpart, and bearing in mind it's two T's, ourpart.org. You can email we must do at ourpart.org, or you can call 480-9470 for more information, or if you think that you have a role to play, or you indeed would like to find out how you can do your part in respect to nation builders, or you just need more information, reach out to those handles. Mr. Hanamji, thank you very much. Take care. All the very best.
Thank you again. Be safe.
Keep up. Ladies and gentlemen, that signals the end of AM Prime for